Okay.
So we're joined for our first entrepreneurship guest of Black History Month, all the way from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, the beautiful city there north of the border, by my friend Banki Sheares Benjamin, founder of Bombshell Impact there in the greater Toronto area. We thank you so much for taking some time for us today. This is our entrepreneurship class here at Velma Jackson. I've got a room full here with me, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County schools. Madison Central High School, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for taking some time for us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and just saying hi to everyone from Velma Jackson High School in Mississippi. I'm glad that we're at this point in technology where we can have these conversations from different parts of the world. I think it's really cool.
Absolutely, and and another one of our great Canadian guests that we've had on this platform. Big shout out to our friend Siobhan Chen and my friend Kimmy Bolatito over in Edmonton, who's a great tech entrepreneur as well, and also an immigrant. So that's where your story begins. You were born in Trinidad, the beautiful country of Trinidad, and then moved to Grenada and then Canada. So take us through kind of your background, your educational background, and how you became an entrepreneur, and kind of how Bombshell Impact was formed.
Okay. So, I'm just gonna try not to say my age, but I was born in Trinidad. I grew up in Grenada till I was about 9 years old. My parents are Grenadians, my siblings are Grenadians, and I was just the only person born in Trinidad. So at 9 years old, I came to Canada, and my journey, well, my journey has started from there. And yeah, that's pretty much in terms of, you know, how I became a Canadian. In terms of sorry, what was the other part of the question? Because I
No,
know I messed
just
up.
how you got into entrepreneurship and kind of how Bombshell Impact was born because you're really starting to make a name for yourself as a business that helps entrepreneurs.
Yes. So, how got into entrepreneurship? I was raised by mothers that were in entrepreneurship. My grandmother, when I lived in Grenada, had a rum shop. My aunt in Trinidad had a convenience store. So I grew up watching amazing women in entrepreneurship. I didn't know that was the path I was going to be on. Going into high school, my path was to go into human resource management, and that's what I went to college for. So pretty much, I went to college for human resource management, but I end up embracing the artistic side of who I am. So I've always been artistic, drawing and stuff like that. And I was at it was during high school. I volunteered for a magazine where I made friends with a graphic designer. And he kind of mentored me, even though I was doing human resources, I wasn't really enjoying it.
There you go.
And I was on the computer one day and I just started to play around with Adobe Photoshop and I fell in love with it. And I guess everything just transpired from there. Um, Originally, because my nickname is Banki, it's a nickname I was given from birth. Um, and that's another story in itself. My company was first called Banki Designs. That's what the original name was. And it was more of my journey in entrepreneurship, my journey as a graphic designer. I started at about 20 years ago at a time where there wasn't many female graphic designers that I knew of anyways, right? So that was the period when I started. So going into entrepreneurship in that realm, it was really a journey. I started doing my regular job in my field of education. Plus, I was doing the graphic designing on the side, and it was more of a side hustle. And it took me a while to really, after I got really frustrated, hating the job that I was going into day to day on, I just made that transition into entrepreneurship full time when before I was doing it part time. And how Bombshell Impact came about. I had a Facebook group that was teaching women about business tools, right? And in that, we were looking to rename this Facebook group. And I went on Google and I typed in, give me a list of names that have the word she in it. And Bombshell came up as one of those names. And
Wow.
then it just evolved into Bombshell Impact from there. And later on, as I no longer wanted my business to be part of me or more of a team, I decided to change the name to Bombshell Impact Design Agency instead of it
Wow.
being focused on me as an individual.
Wow. Well, a couple of things there that I think is awesome because that's such a cool story. But first of all, you know, kids and and a lot of people say it's bad to use AI. It's bad to use those tools. Well, if you're using them the right way, they can be very helpful because you just said
Yes,
you used AI to help you come up with your name, and you made it yours. You didn't steal anything. You used it to get an idea. You can
it
use things.
wasn't
You can use
AI.
AI to format. What's that?
It wasn't AI. It was before
Well,
AI. It was
oh,
Google.
okay. But still, I mean, but still, you use technology to help you. Use
Yes,
technology to kind of, you can use technology as an aid in brainstorming. You can use technology as an aid in formatting in the way you present things. So that is very interesting. But I love the fact that you didn't just jump full time into entrepreneurship because as we've had this platform, one thing we've kind of seen is that most entrepreneurs hold on to that job at least temporarily to have some sort of steady income to keep benefits and they'll slowly transition and some of them still hold on to a part-time job just to be able to still have a steady income because that is such a big jump into entrepreneurship that is not talked about on social media because we see on TikTok and Instagram all the glamorous part of entrepreneurship but we don't see the financial part which is at the end of the day the most important part.
it very much is. Um, Jumping into entrepreneurship is has to be a decision that you have to be financially prepared for. You definitely need to plan strategically, have your exit plan in place. If you're leaving your corporate world and going into entrepreneurship and having the right systems and process in place and the right people to guide you along the way. So some form of mentorship as well. It's easy to go into doing something that you enjoy doing, um, but you'd have to do it strategically and just make sure that everything else is covered, meaning the books are covered. It's one thing to do everything that you enjoy, but you have to also make sure that you're able to afford the life that you want as well.
Awesome. And that's such a great segue to what I want to talk about next because that's what Bombshell Impact does. Is you help businesses find their voice. You help them because look, they may have a great idea, but if they can't present it and sell it, all of this is for nothing. And I think it's no coincidence. Sunday we have, and I know even in Canada it's a big deal. We have the largest advertising on television day of the year during the Super
Oh,
Bowl.
yes.
And it's all about
Mm,
reaching an audience. Now, obviously, we're talking about Fortune 100 companies with several $1 million of advertising budget, but the principle is still the same. When you are selling a product, you have to find ways to reach the people you want to buy it. Now, obviously, I just think it's always a great example of the Super Bowl saying, this is where Coca-Cola is going to go all in trying to reach XYZ target market. But that's what you do at Bombshell Impact is you help people find that market, help them put it in the right place, help them design something that will catch somebody's eye. And it really is, and we got to watch the video you guys put together. It really is a very artistic and creative way for people to reach their audience because they may be able to do the work once they reach the audience, but it's a matter of getting people in the door. So talk about a little bit about what all Bombshell Impact does and how that is such an important thing to have for any entrepreneur.
thank you. So Bombshell Impact, we basically communicate your needs visually, right? Visual communication is what we do, and we do that in the ways of marketing, graphic design, web design, and also business consulting. We call it social impact consulting. We want to measure the impact of the work that you're doing. So a lot of the ways that we help our entrepreneurs is having a detailed understanding of who they service, what their niches are, and just coming up with a plan tailored to their needs. It takes a lot of assessments, auditing of those businesses to find out their needs, but we're basically the voice that amplifies it through visual communication.
Now,
I hope
talk
that
about
answers.
talk about some of those avenues of visual communication because with kids, all they think is social media, and that is something that you do, and it can be very useful. But like we're working on a project right now, and I've told them, well, everything is not going to fit the same. Every business is different. Because they all have their own business concepts in here, and none of them are anything alike. So the way you organize something may not be the way somebody else organizes something. So talk about the way you find that and how you can find ways to come up with those visual ideas because you're not going to advertise a nursing home the same way you're going to advertise a clothing line. Advertise is the wrong word. Market a clothing line. So talk about how you find that and some of the things that are so important to reach that audience.
You only have about 6 seconds to attract someone,
Wow.
to attract someone to your brand. Every time me or my team members create a logo, we create social media posts, we create some form of branding story. We only have 6 seconds. Six
Wow.
seconds is all it takes, sometimes even less. The human capacity of attention span is less than goldfish, and that's just what scientifically is proven right now, right? It is why TikTok is so successful. So, understanding how to visually attract someone to grab their attention and to make them want to buy your product and service, there's only 6 seconds to do that. A lot
Wow.
of the services that we do that tailors to that is really when it comes to marketing, we don't only do social media. And yes, we do social media, including content creation. I'm actually coming up with a content studio that's in the
Oh,
works.
that's awesome.
Um, thank you. We also do email marketing. Just think that emails, you get flooded with emails all the time. And the way that you have to choose which email to open, sometimes you look at an email and something in that email captures you and allows you to click on it. That's where we come into. There's a lot of psychology in grabbing your attention, color psychology as an example, shape psychology. But regardless of the strategy that is being used, it's all based on how we visually grab your attention. And that is the skill set that we're expertise on when it comes to that we apply to web designs, social media, um, email marketing, any other form of marketing and ads for a bus station, for example, pop-up markets, and other campaigns that we do as well.
Yeah, and it's such a great example of entrepreneurs that are built for entrepreneurs. Because so many times people get into a business and they may be really good at one thing, but they don't have a lot of experience in something else. And they say, well, I can't afford to hire somebody full time for that. Well, that's where companies like yourself come into play because you're going to be a lot more cost effective than paying a full time employee. And you have the expertise in that one area that this business needs.
Every business needs my services when it comes to graphic and web design and getting your message visually communicated correctly. So when it comes to helping entrepreneurs, we help them. One moment here. We help them by understanding what their message is. When you set up your business, the first thing you need to do is have a business plan. You need to know what your vision and your mission is, all of those things. What we
Yep,
do
we
is
did we
help
did
bring that
all of that in the
mission.
fall. So yeah, they know all about the mission and vision statement. But yeah, I'm glad you said that. Go ahead.
What we do is transform your vision and mission statement into a visual form so your
Wow.
audience can understand it as well.
That's incredible. Now, along the same lines, I'm about to get to their questions, but along the same lines, I think it's important because you paint the visual story. But at the end of the day, the entrepreneur themselves is the one that has to be able to tell the story. Because you can walk in a room and have the best looking business card, you can have a great brand online, But when a person comes to you and asks about it, you've got to know what's on it and you've got to be confident in the way you speak. When you walk in a room, you've got to introduce yourself. When somebody says, "Hey, I saw your post about XYZ," you've got to be knowledgeable and you've got to say, "Hey, here's what I'm selling. Here's why it's a good choice for you." And even highlighting things like, yeah, it costs this much, but here's what you get whenever you buy this. So even though you're a incredibly artistic person, you've got those skills. How important is it also along the same lines to have those communication skills and be a great presenter of verbal communication along with having the graphic communication?
I'm glad you said that. I'm actually working with a public speaker to put together a webinar series that speaks on verbal communication and visual communication together. They're both needed. It's like husband and wife. They're both married together in order for you to have a successful business. Imagine having a wonderful presentation deck that you want to speak to investors on, and you're not able to verbally deliver that message. They're looking at something absolutely visually appealing, but you lack the skill set to execute. So definitely public speaking, being able to master webinars, those type of things are very important in what we do as well.
Yeah, because obviously you guys do great work, and we'll share your social media and website before we go. But people can see the work you've done, and it speaks for itself. But if you're going to command that type of online presence, you've got to have the same in-person presence. And that doesn't mean speaking in front of thousands of people. But when somebody wants to, when people have to make a choice between competitors, they're going to go with the one that is more believable. So it's such a science, but it's so important to learn that skill now. But I do have some questions from the students. And I like this one. This is Kaylin Bullock. She's in ninth grade. And she asked, looking back on your journey, is there anything you would have done differently when starting your business?
Yes, delegating, knowing when to delegate. That's a big one. The reason why is because I'm so passionate in what I do. I want to be able to do it all. And when you start getting a lot of clients coming to you all at the same time, you can't be the one that does it all. You have to be able to delegate and hire a team. So early on in my journey, I had to learn, hey, you're going to burn out if you don't delegate.
Yeah, and that goes back to your mission and vision statement because I always say people think that's silly, but when you're training people, when you delegate tasks, when you're training people, they need to know what that is so they're on the same page of what you stand for. Because you can train somebody to do a task, but if they don't know your mission and your vision, they're probably not going to be as effective. But that is so important when, if you have this idea and you put your heart and soul into this, train people on that as well. But yeah, that is an excellent point. Now, I like this question. This is Zayden Mann. He's also in ninth grade, one of our band members here at Velma Jackson. And he asked, what is the most effective way you have used to attract customers?
Repeat the question.
What is the most effective way you have had or you have used to attract customers?
The most effective? Um, Good question. I'm just thinking off my hand. Recently, I had launched a grant. So I launched a grant in last year June, the ending of June, and it was a social impact grant. And the result of it is so basically it's a grant offering up to $10,000 in kind services of what I offer, right? To any one company out there in the world that is making a difference to change the world,
Wow.
right? How I was able to do that is I put the post on all my social media platforms, let everyone know this is out there, right? I also, in terms of how I was able to get in front of my target audience, I reached out to grant influencers and I reach out to grant influencers to let them know this grant is happening. There's information about it. Please share with your network, right? And basically, I also reached out to different grant outlets and news outlets to let them know about this grant. The end result is actually in the back of my screen here. 923 people applied from all over the world, 85 countries,
Wow.
all continents except Antarctica, all applied for this grant, right? So how it was successful and how I was able to grab the attention of everyone that applied was I was strategic in how to attract them. Where do they hang out? If I'm attracting someone that is doing work to change the world, they're looking for grants as well. They're looking for me. So how do I get them to let them know that I exist? I go to the sources that they go to. Who they go for help is where I connect. And I was able to then have them spread the word on my behalf. And it's free content for them. And I was able to promote the grant that way. And I have a next one that's actually happening right now in the spirit of Black History Month. And
Wow.
right now, it expires February 28th. It started January 6th. And right now we're at 300 and we're almost at 400 applicants, basically.
Wow. Yeah, and I just love that slogan. And I know you have it on some other things on social media where the sky is not the limit. And it's just
Yes.
so many people limit themselves. And look, some of it is what you've seen. You don't think it can happen, but making that impact, it is amazing when you have that confidence. What can happen for you? And you're a great testament to that. All right, I got time for two more. This is Albriana Towner. She's in 11th grade. And she asked, what inspired you to go into business for yourself as opposed to just being an employee in graphic design?
I did that. Actually, I was working as an employee in graphic design. I started with this one company that I was working with for all these years and in the HR administrative area. And they had posted for graphic design and I applied for it. And they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you're a graphic designer." And I'm like, "Actually, I went to school for HR, but this is my portfolio." So they did hire me to do that work and I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy the control of it,
There
right?
you go.
Um, I think that was what it is. I remember designing a particular ad and the person said, "Hey, I want a French Canadian." And I put a black French Canadian. And they're like, "Oh no, she doesn't look French Canadian." And I'm like, "Well, what does French Canadian look like?" So it was those type of you don't have control over the narrative, basically. Was the one of the reasons why I went into go being in my own business because the way that I see things may not be the way that I don't have the control, creative control, basically.
Well, I mean, and just saying that made my head scratch because Georges Larac, very prominent Black French Canadian. I don't understand that, but that's a great point. I got one more. This is Shateria Hannon. She's in 10th grade, also a member of our band here at Velma Jackson, and she asked, "What do you think has been the made you most proud from the success of your business?"
Um, the results of the grants, I think that has been making me a lot of gratitude and joy, but also just the journey and the direction in which my brand is going. So I started off designing flyers, for parties. That's how I started when I did Banki
Wow.
Designs Inc. Then I went into, servicing businesses. And then I got into nonprofits and I'm servicing a lot of nonprofits. It's the journey that I'm proud of. Recently, the brand story of Bombshell Impact is a design agency from Mars on a mission to Earth to help people that are wanting to change the world into a better place, help them with their visual tools, right? So the journey of accomplishing that it means more to me than anything else.
That's incredible. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us. But a couple things before we go. First of all, bombshellimpact.com is the website. All your social media, your Instagram handles are under there. I am Banki at Instagram, Bombshell Impact at Instagram. Great content on there. Really encourage everybody to go follow. But the last thing before we go is, like we've mentioned, it is Black History Month, and most people don't know Black History Month is celebrated in Canada as well as the
Yeah.
United States. So really, really cool that it's gotten international. So um, as these kids start making decisions to go to university, to be entrepreneurs, to be employees, no matter what they decide, even if they want to have a part-time business, they want to have a side hustle, that's great. Employers love hiring people that think like entrepreneurs. But why do these kids really need to consider why those Black entrepreneurial skills are so needed across all industries?
I'm going to ask you to repeat. I lost track. Sorry.
That's fine. I'm sure with the connection goes in and out. We're out in the country, but I was just talking about as these kids start making decisions, whatever they're going to do after high school, whether they want to have be a full-time entrepreneur, a part-time entrepreneur, whatever way that goes. Because I think all of us can agree that employers love hiring employees that think like entrepreneurs. Everybody doesn't want to take on the stress, but they can think like an entrepreneur and be an incredible employee. But as these kids start making decisions, why do they really need to understand the need for more black entrepreneurial skills across all industries? Because there has never been a better time to be that leader in the black community like it is today.
Today is the best time for it, and generational wealth should be your key motivator. Having
There you go.
something that you're able to pass on from family generation should be, your ultimate goal. It's very, at least in Toronto, I don't see many Black-owned businesses that have been able to pass on their businesses generation to
Wow.
generation to generation. And we
Wow.
need more of that. All right. We need to strengthen our economic power, and we need to be able to lean on each other when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you being flexible on the schedule. I know you had some issues, we had some weather issues, but we're glad we came together today, and it's such a joy. All the
Yes.
great work you're doing. We'll definitely have to do this again. But my friend, all the way from Toronto, Ontario, Canada,
Yes.
there in the beautiful city, we thank you so much for joining us. Banki herself, Sheares Benjamin, owner of Bombshell Impact. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, and have yourself a wonderful day.
All
Bye,
right, talk to you soon.
everyone.